The NFL star would have to make a difficult choice after receiving a startling secret message from his ex-girlfriend, Kayla Nicole, and everyone who believed they knew the truth about their previous relationship would be shocked by the outcome. 15 June 2024, 3:42 p.m., with her laptop balanced on her knees, Taylor Swift was responding to emails from her management team while curled up on the large couch in Travis's Kansas City home. She had the luxury of a peaceful afternoon at home for the first time in months, while the tour was on a 2-week break. Travis was at required team meetings, and aside from the distant sound of neighbors cutting their lawns and the quiet hum of the air conditioner, the house felt deserted. After spending months alternating between her different residences and Travis's home in Kansas City, Taylor had been living with him for 3 weeks when she formally moved some of her belongings into his Leawood mansion. It seemed like a logical next step in their relationship, but it also felt monumental in a way that excited and unnerved her at the same time. She was idly liking posts from friends and fans on Instagram when she got a notification that made her freeze. Kayla Nicole would like to message you. Taylor's thumb lingered over the screen as she gazed at the notification for a full 30 seconds. Travis dated Kayla Nicole for 5 years during his college years, in the early years of his NFL career. For 5 years, social media and sports media had been tracking, analyzing, and dissecting the women's relationship with Travis. The fact that Kayla wanted to speak with Taylor directly, however, startled her the most. At first, Taylor wanted to ignore it. When they first started dating, she and Travis had talked briefly about his previous relationships. Additionally, he had only mentioned a few specifics about Kayla. "It's over, but it was serious. She's a good person," he had said. "In the end, we simply weren't meant to be together." However, Taylor tapped on a message request because curiosity overcame caution. What she read would make her reevaluate everything she believed to be true about their future and fundamentally alter her understanding of Travis's past. Hello, Taylor. If you decide not to read this or reply, I totally understand. I know this is probably the last thing you expected in your direct messages today. For months, I've been debating whether or not to get in touch, but after witnessing Travis's joy with you, I've decided I must. Taylor continued to read even though her heart was already pounding. "I want to start by saying that I truly am happy for you both. Travis is deserving of love, and based on what I can see in public, you two are a match made in heaven. I wish someone had told me these things when we first became serious, but there are some things about Travis and our relationship that I feel you should be aware of. Not to start a fight." It was this. Taylor had been subconsciously dreading this conversation. The ex-girlfriend was revealing shocking details about the man she was growing more and more infatuated with every day. "Everyone assumes that Travis cheated on me or that we split up over money. That is untrue. Travis has a deep, real fear of marriage and commitment that he has never overcome, which is why we broke up. He would discuss our future in general terms. However, he would cut off or shift the topic as soon as discussions became specific about deadlines, engagement, or creating a life together." Something cold settled in Taylor's stomach. After giving it some thought, she realized that her discussions with Travis had been rather ambiguous. Nothing specific, just fantasies about spending their golden years together and jokes about their children inheriting her musical talent and his athletic prowess. Nothing with real schedules or plans. "I don't say this to harm you or him. I tell you this because in addition to his amazing capacity for love, Travis is also able to keep people at bay without them even recognizing it. He cherished me. He did, I'm sure. However, his fear of eternity was never conquered by his love for me." However, Kayla's next message would disclose something about Travis that Taylor was unaware of. "The problem is that when Travis and Jason were teenagers, their parents went through a very difficult time in their marriage. They managed to work it out, but Travis was deeply convinced that marriage destroys healthy relationships. He saw his parents go from being content to fighting all the time to sleeping in different bedrooms. Despite the fact that they eventually reconciled, Travis persuaded himself that the marriage, not the situation, was the issue." This story was new to Taylor. Travis had always praised his parents as an example of a solid marriage and spoke of them with such affection and reverence. It was entirely new knowledge that his views on commitment had been shaped by a challenging time. I tried to persuade him for 5 years that we weren't his parents, that our relationship was unique, and that love could last a lifetime without causing harm. However, I was never able to convince him. He would find an excuse to apply the brakes whenever we were about to move on to the next phase. And Taylor didn't hear Travis's car in the driveway or his key in the front door because she was reading so hard. I'm not telling you this to make you question what you have or to persuade you to break up with him, Taylor. I'm telling you this because I can tell that Travis looks at you differently than he ever did at me in every picture, interview, and public setting. When he's with you, there's something in his eyes that I hoped would be aimed at me for 5 years. What transpired next, however, would transform this private moment into a conversation that would define their relationship. I'm coming home early, sweetie. The sound of keys striking the counter and Travis's work bag falling to the ground were heard after his voice called from the kitchen. Coach, please call off the previous meeting because Mahomes' child had a school issue. I thought we could go somewhere nice for an early dinner, perhaps your favorite Italian restaurant. Taylor felt her heart leap into her throat. As Travis arrived home each day, she could hear him moving about the kitchen, most likely getting a bottle of water and checking his mail. She realized there were several more paragraphs after quickly scrolling to see how much more of Kayla's message was there. She tried to scroll and read more quickly, but her thumb was trembling a little. I want you to know that I think Travis can overcome his fears, even though I know this is a lot to process and may cause you to doubt your relationship. He simply couldn't do it for me, in my opinion. Some people bring out our best qualities and our growth potential. It's obvious that you both support him. Please don't tell him I called him broken or scared or anything else that would make him feel inferior if you choose to speak with him about this. He isn't damaged, he's merely afraid. And to be honest, his fear makes perfect sense in light of what he witnessed his parents go through. Perhaps show him that fear need not be the deciding factor in his choices. I hope this message is more beneficial than detrimental. I never intended to ruin his happiness, but I couldn't watch him ruin the best thing that had ever happened to him without at least attempting to provide you with the background information I wish I had. Kayla, look out for one another. An asterisk, Taylor. She instinctively closed her phone so quickly that she nearly dropped it when Travis appeared in the living room doorway. As he sat down on the couch beside her, he noticed her tense posture and the slight flush in her cheeks and asked, "Everything okay?" "You appear to have seen a ghost. For example, you just ended a very tense phone conversation with your publicist." Taylor realized she had to make a decision after glancing at the man she had been living with for 3 weeks and who she had been growing more and more in love with every day. She could delete the message, act as though she had never seen it, and carry on living in blissful ignorance, unaware of his commitment problems and past fears. Or she could be straightforward about what had just arrived in her inbox and handle any necessary dialogue. "Travis," she said cautiously, "I have to show you something, but before you react, I need your assurance that you will wait for me to explain." Travis's expression changed to one of complete focus when he heard her tone. "Well, what's happening?" After taking a deep breath, Taylor opened her phone and found Kayla's message. "I just received a lengthy, in-depth message from your ex-girlfriend explaining your relationship and the reasons behind your breakup." Travis became absolutely still, not just silent, but immobile, as if someone had hit the pause button on his whole body. Finally, with a carefully modulated voice, he said, "Show me." As he read, Taylor watched his face and gave him her phone. She could see his eyes tightening as he read each revelation, his flinching when Caleb brought up his parents' marital problems, and his perplexed frown when he talked about how he now saw Taylor differently. Travis put the phone down gently after he was done reading and looked at his hands for a while. "Is it accurate?" softly Taylor inquired. "Her remarks regarding your parents, your apprehension about commitment, and the reasons behind your actual breakup." Taylor became concerned that Travis wouldn't respond at all because he was silent for so long. "Yeah," he finally said, "the majority of it is accurate." At that moment, Taylor Swift became aware that the most significant discussion of their relationship was about to begin. "Why didn't you tell me about your parents' difficult time, Travis? Why didn't you tell me that you're afraid of commitment?" Taylor noticed something scared and vulnerable in Travis's face as he looked up at her. "I was afraid you would decide I wasn't worth the risk." People who were unable to provide you with what you needed have hurt you in the past. I didn't want you to believe that I would be another one of those individuals. But Taylor said softly, keeping it from me doesn't change whether or not it's true. It simply indicates that I am unable to support you in overcoming it and make wise choices regarding our future. With a start, Travis got up and began to pace the living room. What it was like to watch my parents go from being best friends to hardly being able to be in the same room together is beyond words. Taylor, they quarreled over everything. Parenting choices, money, whose dreams were more important and whose career was more significant. At the age of 17, I witnessed the two people I cared about the most in the world grow apart. His voice carried the anguish and terror of a teenager who had witnessed his foundation crumble, and Taylor could hear it. Eventually, they figured it out, Travis added. They attended therapy, they practiced speaking to each other. They recalled their initial reasons for falling in love. However, for nearly 2 years, I doubted that they would remain together, and I kept thinking that they would have been okay if they had simply remained boyfriend and girlfriend indefinitely. However, what followed would reveal to Taylor the true nature of Travis Kelce's character. Travis took Taylor's hands in his, sat down again beside her, and stopped pacing. But when I read Kayla's message, you know what I discovered? She is correct. I do see you differently than I did her. I love you in a different way than I loved her. What are you saying? Taylor inquired. I loved Kayla, but I always thought I was attempting to shield our relationship from the future, like we would be fine forever if I could just keep us in this ideal bubble where nothing needed to change or become complicated. Travis's voice was growing louder and more confident. However, I'm not attempting to shield us from the future with you, Taylor. It excites me. Together we should build it. Taylor's eyes began to well up with tears. Oh, that's gorgeous, Travis. However, how can I be certain that's not how you're feeling at the moment? How can I be certain that you won't become frightened and start to distance yourself, as you did with Kayla, when we start discussing marriage, having children, or starting a family? At that point, Travis Kelce made a choice that would shock both himself and everyone else. There in his living room, he knelt down. Taylor Swift, he said, his eyes crystal clear, his voice trembling a little. I need you to know something. Even though I don't have a ring and this isn't how I intend to proceed, Kayla is correct. I'm not afraid of being with you forever the way I was with her. I'm afraid we won't be together forever. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Taylor's hands shot to her mouth. I love you forever, messily and totally. Instead of allowing my fears to dictate our future, I love you enough to overcome them. If going to therapy is necessary, I will do it because I love you so much. For the rest of our lives, I will choose dedication over fear because I love you that much. Now, Travis was crying too. Are you going to wed me? Yes, of course, yes, Taylor whispered through her tears. Taylor came to a deep realization as Travis got up and drew her into his embrace. Their relationship had not been intended to be ruined by Kayla's message. It was supposed to save it. Kayla had given them something priceless: total honesty about their past and unambiguous intentions for the future. By making Travis face his fears and forcing them to have the talk they'd been avoiding. After calling their families, crying happy tears, and deciding to go ring shopping the following day, Taylor did something later that night that even shocked her. She grabbed her phone and texted Nicole and Kayla back. I appreciate your courage in sending that message. You were incorrect about one thing, but you were correct about everything else. Travis didn't simply acquire a new way of loving. He discovered that love was more important than fear. Your candor allowed us to have the necessary discussion. Any woman who loves someone enough to help them be happy with someone else is the kind of person the world needs more of. So I hope we can all be friends someday. An hour later, Kayla responded, Taylor, congratulations. Look out for one another. 6 months later, Kayla and Nicole would send a lovely bouquet of flowers along with a card that read, wishing you both forever, to Travis and Taylor's official engagement party. Additionally, Taylor would cherish that card as a reminder that sometimes the most heartwarming love stories contain chapters penned by those who have loved you in the past and have taken the time to improve your relationship. However, Taylor Swift learned a lesson about love that she would always remember that night in Travis's living room, complete with an unplanned engagement and teary-eyed cheeks. Avoiding difficult conversations is not the foundation of the best relationships. They are predicated on having them with bravery, integrity, and the resolve to resolve any issues that may arise from those discussions. How do you feel about Kayla contacting Taylor? Has your current relationship ever benefited from an ex's candor? Helping someone we once loved love someone else more is sometimes the most effective thing we can do for them. And here's something that truly interests me. Are ex-partners supposed to stay out of current relationships altogether? Or do you think Kayla's message was appropriate? When there are valuable lessons to be learned from past relationships, how do you think they should impact present ones? For more untold tales of love, growth, and the surprising ways that people from our past can contribute to the creation of better futures, please hit the like button and subscribe if this story inspired you to consider the bravery required to have open discussions about commitment and fear. Because shielding someone from the truth isn't always the most lovely aspect of loving them, it's assisting them in facing it.